Hi guys, welcome back to Ben and Hollie Stories. I believe this is episode number 2, and I think the topic of today is going to be centered around our first deal. But mainly what we want to talk about and get across here is the reason why people don't take on that first deal.
Definitely. I think when we first started, we both had different views completely, didn't we?
100%.
I was definitely very much on the risk end of the stick, whereas you were kind of all guns blazing, weren't you?
Yeah, I like to jump into things. I like to measure risk up. I like to weigh up the risk, but I'm definitely leaning more on the side of do it rather than hesitate. I think you're on that side of hesitate.
Definitely, yeah.
Oh, you were back then?
No, still am. Still am.
So for those of you who don't already know, we've got another video on our channel which tells the full story of how we got started. But to kind of get to things quickly in this, we basically had an Airbnb management company. So we're managing Airbnbs for other people, essentially. Now, I came across Rent to Rent on YouTube, of all places. And I think at the time, like I've always been kind of entrepreneurial, and I was looking at Amazon FBA, drop shipping, like there was all these different things. And I came across Rent to Rent, and you know, I watched as many videos on it as I possibly could, but there was always like that little niggle that I couldn't get it to work, you know? And so I kind of half-heartedly started reaching out, didn't I?
Yeah, I think for you were kind of all guns blazing with the whole situation, whereas for me, we had this management company. We didn't have to do big investments. We were managing other people's properties. We absolutely wanted to buy our own one day, didn't we?
100%.
And that was always the plan. We always wanted a Hollie cottage of our own or an Airbnb of our own. But for me, putting that money down for something that you weren't going to own felt like a huge risk to me, and it was something that we'd never heard of before.
Yeah, definitely. And do you know what? When I'm speaking to a lot of people that are coming through and looking at joining our academy, everyone says the same thing. You know, oh, it's a lot of money to be putting down on something that I'm never actually going to own the asset. And I obviously thought the same way at the time, but because we were already running a management company, we saw the money, we saw the revenue coming through the bank because we were divvying out the payments and subtracting the costs, right? We're practically running a business already, but we just didn't have that expense, but we could see how much money they were making. Yeah. That was a huge push for me to get started in it.
Yeah.
And I think I remember at the time, I sort of said to you, you know, yes, the traditional way of like buying assets and things like that, that's what everyone bangs on about. That's what our parents wanted us to do as well. They wanted us to buy an investment property. However, I think we always realized that without having that additional cash, we were never going to be able to achieve those things. Like we just weren't going to save it for our salary, right? So by having something extra that was generating cash flow that we could put aside and put into assets and grow something that way, that seemed like the most sensible thing to do. But I don't think you cottoned onto it as quickly as I did. I think you were just purely focused on risk.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm very much more risk averse, aren't I, when it comes to anything. And I think the usual thing is to buy property, get on the property ladder, which is what we've done with our own home. Yep. And that's kind of what you'd then think to do next for any sort of investment property. I could never see why a landlord would want to give you their property and then you rent it off them and make more money than they're making themselves. I think even just the outlay of cash at the beginning for any sort of investment, we weren't really in a position to do, especially to buy. So it kind of felt risky then. And I think that the different thing for us is that we could see Airbnbs making money. Yeah. So we knew the bookings were coming in, whereas a lot of people do think, are you going to get the bookings? Are they going to pay the bills? Whereas we could see that already. So we didn't have that concern just as much. But I think the risky thing would be to go into a new area and not knowing exactly if it was going to work out.
And do you know what I think is really crazy about that first property that we took on was the fact that we didn't even like stack the numbers up properly. We did like rough maths, didn't we?
Yeah.
But we didn't actually know like the way that we stack deals up now is like bulletproof. You know, it's all about looking at data and making that commercial decision based on numbers. Whereas that deal, it was like finger in the air, like might work, might not work, and actually it didn't work.
It didn't work completely, Definitely not, but it did then work when we made some tweaks.
Yeah, and it took that extra little bit of research, but it was 6 months where we were running at a loss.
We were running at a loss. We were doing the cleans ourselves whilst both working full time. We thought that's what you had to do.
Yeah.
We were going after work and doing the cleans, so then we'd be missing a day in between to then take another booking. The furnishing and the staging was absolutely shocking. I mean, we've spoken about it before, but we had £3,000 to invest into that first property, and that was to include the deposit, the rent, and the furniture.
Yeah.
And looking back, I mean, I'd never recommend anyone to do it because it looked like an empty shell, didn't it?
It was horrendous.
And there was just this thing back then where every Airbnb was blue themed or yellow, which is
or blue and yellow,
or blue and yellow combined, which is just not our style at all. And I think that's the main thing is when you're looking at it now, it's like, would you want to stay there? And if you would, then it's going to work.
Yeah. It was. I think we didn't even get lucky. It didn't work. Like, we had to go out, do extra research, figure out where we were going wrong. And then within 6 months, all of the furniture just broke anyway.
Yeah.
So we lost a ton of money. If we just spent probably double the amount and bought nicer furniture, it probably would have lasted. But we had to replace it all and pay double anyway.
And I can remember the sofa. We measured the apartment, but for some reason we were quite off with the measurements as well. It was quite a strange layout of apartment.
Yeah, it was.
And we just thought, rather than go back and measure again, we're like, we'll definitely go for the smallest sofa. And I kid you not, it was about this big, wasn't it?
It was like a love seat.
It was a love seat, which was bright blue, velvet, you can imagine. And people would just get there, and there was nothing else. We didn't do any sort of like accent chair, nothing else.
No,
it was just that one sofa, not comfy at all.
No, it was horrendous. And the cheapest TV, which obviously is like a 32-inch. So you were sat on this little love seat sofa. You know, if there was two of you, it would have been really, really cozy. And then, like, in front of you, there'd basically be like pretty much like a laptop screen that you were going to watch
iPad.
TV. Oh, yeah. But it was like 5 feet away from you was the TV stand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. There was a lot of learnings from that one, but I think the thing that, going back to the cleaning, was we genuinely believed if we give this to a cleaner and they're charging us, like, there's no profit in this deal. That's the only way that we thought we were going to make money, by cleaning it ourselves.
Yeah, and we did that for a very long time.
Very, very long time. But actually, what was interesting was once we made the tweaks, we improved things. I mean, even back then, we still shot the pictures on my iPhone camera.
Yeah.
The first lot of pictures we took at night time, which is just crazy to think that now. The second lot of pictures we went during the day, and I think we got some better ones.
You got a bit of an eye for it then.
I got an eye for it. My GCSE photography, and we bought a ring light as well. I think that brightened the rooms up. So it was like we were being a little bit more professional, and it did work. We did start making money, and I think on average we were doing about £800 a month.
We were, yeah. Once we got it all up and running properly, learned from the mistakes. We literally did a full revamp on the furniture, didn't we?
Yeah.
And then we could warrant that extra nightly rate. Because the thing is, the property itself was absolutely unbelievable, wasn't it?
Oh, beautiful, yeah.
Really nice, really lended itself to the area it was in. It was city centre location with parking. It was perfect. We just didn't know justice to begin with.
Yeah. But I think at the time as well, which was really playing in our favour, was the fact that, we'd come out of lockdown, staycations were like all the rage because people were still scared to jump on a flight. So people were booking Airbnbs like no tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so whilst immediately we didn't have, I think our first month, we had one booking, and it was a one night stay. I think it was really scary. But yeah, it then picked up, and we were basically getting enough in, and so we were like, right, okay, this is a model that works, but we just need to be really careful about how we kind of move this forward. Yeah,
I think that deal shaped how we now stack deals. And it's just evolved ever since then, hasn't it?
100%, yeah.
And we've definitely learned how to furnish better, that's for sure.
It's funny to think, you're an interior designer now.
Yeah, definitely wasn't back then.
You weren't back then, but I love that this business has allowed us to kind of flourish as people and go off and do other things, not just from the skill set that you get. You know, I wouldn't call you an interior designer from that first apartment that we did,
No.
but the stuff that we put out now, you know, is really impressive stuff that we're quite proud of, and we get a lot of positive feedback from as guests. But I also think of more recent, that's why our business has been so successful. We really understand what the guest is looking for. Not just the guest, but the type of guest, what they're looking for. And I think a lot of people forget this because they go into deal number one, just like what we did. We're going to go straight to IKEA and Dunelm and you know,
as cheap as possible.
Cheap as possible. Which, and by the way, those shops you can get good stuff. We still use it now, but it's just sort of having that eye or having a think about, because people rush straight into the cheapest stuff and they go, oh, well, it's just an Airbnb. It won't matter. It does.
It does matter, yeah.
It does matter so much.
It's actually crazy thinking now about how we felt right at the beginning, because now it almost becomes addictive getting that new deal on. And we were doing that back to back to back, weren't we? Because you kind of lose the fear when you're so confident with the numbers and you get your own style and you know what you're doing in furnishing. You want to take more and more and more on.
Yeah, well, I just see the money.
I was going to say, especially when you see the cash come in as well. So that feeling of fear becomes excitement.
It does, yeah. That sort of. I do still get that fear in the pit of my stomach, and I think what I've learned over the years is the fact that those butterflies, that feeling of fear, actually is just us walking outside of our comfort zone.
Yeah, 100%.
Because when you get that, it's like your body goes into that fight or flight mode. But actually, when you know that you've worked something out correctly, you're doing the right steps, you're taking the right actions, then it's just a case of your body saying, okay, you're out of your comfort zone, but that's a good thing. And when you have that switch in your mindset, like, wow, you can grow like that.
100%. Okay, learnings then.
Absolutely. Okay, so what have we learned? Know your numbers.
Yeah, definitely have to know your numbers. Otherwise, you're going into a deal blind.
Yeah, which is crazy, absolutely crazy. It's got to be staging.
Yeah, know who you're marketing your property to with your guest in mind, and don't cheap out on furniture.
No, what do they say? Buy cheap, buy twice.
Buy cheap, buy twice. Yeah, you can get away with it sometimes, but do not make it completely purely IKEA, because guests do know. And 3 is definitely take the risk. If we didn't take the risk back then, and I had stopped us, which I very much nearly did, we wouldn't have the business that we have today. And I feel like once you start taking the risk and you do it once and you make that one little step, you want to do more and more and more, don't you?
Absolutely. It's kick-started such an amazing business. It's opened up so many doors for us, and the opportunities that have arisen because of that initial step that we made 6 years ago. It's, best thing we ever did.
Absolutely. So if there's anything else that you guys want to know,
drop it in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe. This has been Ben and Hollie, Ben and Hollie Stories, episode 2, and we will catch you on the next one.
Thanks, guys.